All right, guys, check this out. If you are wanting to shrink down your shot group, maybe put it into at least a hand-sized group on target for you CCW permit holders. So there's a couple things that'll move your sights out of what you're aimed at. Number one is going to be your trigger press, and number two is going to be your grip pressure as you're pressing that trigger. This video is going to cover the trigger. So in order for me to have good trigger press, I have to be familiar with the trigger. And this is how I familiarize myself with the trigger. So this right here, this loose part, this is just the slack of the trigger. So I want to get rid of that slack, and right about here, the trigger gets tight. I'm going to refer to that as the wall of the trigger. Once I get to the wall of the trigger, I'm going to continue to add pressure very deliberately, very slowly, and I wait for that click. So here's the first part of the drill here, right? I'm going to lay this gun down on my support side hand. I'm going to put my finger on the trigger, and I'm going to find the wall very deliberately. Right there, I'm at the wall. Now I'm going to continue to add pressure until the trigger breaks. So two things are happening here. When I get to that wall and I start applying pressure, I can see how much travel that's left over before the trigger breaks or goes click. And then the other thing is, as I'm pressing, I'm also getting a good feel for it. So here's the next part of the drill. I'm going to get in front of a wall. I'm going to get into a good shooting stance, get a good grip on the gun, and I'm going to put the muzzle of the gun about 2 to 3 inches away from the wall as I do that same drill that I was doing earlier, which was finding the wall of that trigger and then applying pressure until the trigger breaks. But the difference now is I have a better understanding of my trigger. I know how much is left over after that wall. As I'm pressing that trigger, I can visualize how much is left over. I can almost predict when the gun is going to go click. Again, the whole goal here is to be able to press the trigger without disturbing the front sight. So I'm going to get to the wall of that trigger very deliberately. I'm right there right now. Now I can simply add pressure to that trigger, make the trigger go click without disturbing the front sight. So once you've achieved that, you're able to press the trigger without moving the sight. Now you want to pick up the pace a little bit, meaning I'm not going to stop at the wall of the trigger and then continue. I am just going to cruise right through that wall as soon as I feel it. So I feel it and I continue to press. Continue to pick up the pace and try to press trigger without moving the gun. All right, a couple things to consider here. If your sights are lined up and your target requires an extreme amount of accuracy, I need to incorporate the right trigger press for that. That trigger press is going to be finding the wall of that trigger and just applying pressure little by little by little until the gun goes click. If my sight picture does not require a super steady front sight or a dot, then I don't have to be that careful with my trigger. So I can cruise through that trigger instead of stopping and being very deliberate. Anyway, I hope that helps, guys. Stay safe. Be blessed.